none of that in this video. But if any of y'all know, I live that vampire life. So, my morning is everybody else's evening. But we're going to do this again with the Get to Know Me, except this time it's going to be a little PG-13 because I didn't like the fact that I was cursing so much in the last video. I got freedom of speech and all that, and I'm not worried about being monetized or losing sponsorship, but still, I got a lot of kids that follow me. A lot of kids, especially y'all in the fish keeping hobby. So we're going to do this a little more PG, and I'm going to sit down with a pen and paper, and I'm actually going to get this together and get it right this time. So, you know the drill. You can probably smell my breath through the camera, so let me get this together. Not bad, not bad. Okay. Well, let's try this again, shall we? Welcome back, folks. Dead Fred 821 here. And we're gonna try to do this Get to Know Me video again. As you can see, I've got some notes this time around. And the whole point of me doing this again is honestly my biggest issue with the last time around was the fact that my language was so foul. Now I'm happy and proud that as an American I do have freedom of speech. But as the old saying goes in the comic books, with great power comes great responsibility. I've got a lot of followers, and I'm starting to gain more followers. And some of you, particularly you in the fish family, are of a certain age where that particular language is unacceptable to be used around you. That is my opinion. I don't think that I should enforce that opinion on others, but because that is my opinion, I am going to redo this. And I make no apologies for anything that I said. If you don't like what I said, or if you don't agree with me, I would encourage you to let's have a healthy conversation about it in the comment section. I will not tolerate trolling. I don't want to hear name calling, and I don't want to see name calling between anybody else. But if you disagree with anything that I've said or anything that somebody says in the comments, feel free to express yourself. I do not plan or intend to ever censor individuals. However, racist remarks will be removed. Direct name calling will be removed. You can say what you want to say, you can do what you want to do, you just won't do it on my channel. Respect my home. So, with that being said, I've got my notes, so let's get started. Who am I? Well, Dead Fred 821, as I stated before, is a name that came from, that was my first username, Dead Fred was, when I first signed up for internet service back in 1997 for America Online. I'm 42 years old. I am a black Native American. And let me pause right there because I see, I've seen on multiple occasions, even twice here on YouTube, being a guest in somebody else's stream, by saying that I was Native American, their reaction was, why you want to claim Indian? Why you can't just be black? Well, first of all, the word Indian means dark skin. So that should tell you what they thought about most of those people when they came across them. That's first of all. Second of all, my grandfather's grandfather came straight off the reservation. My grandfather's father is on the Dawes rolls. I know who I am. I know who I am. I am a black Native American. And just because I consider myself Native American does not mean that I do not consider myself black. Johnny Brown, who I'll insert a picture of probably over here, you can look on his obituary and see that he is a beautiful black man. The first picture of a Native American ever taken was down in Tierra del Fuego, and this brother looks like he came straight out the bush, out of the dark continent. That's a whole nother discussion that we'll probably be getting into, because this is going to be cut up into multiple parts. But I just wanted to throw that in there because I know who I am, and I'm proud of who I am as far as my heritage is concerned. I may have done some shameful things in my life, but my heritage and my ancestors, they are who created me and who made me, and I have no shame in anything that they have done or stood for, even if they did commit any shameful acts. By the way, I don't know of any, but if I did find out, in that sense, they're not me. They're part of what makes me. And if I learn about a shameful act that they committed, I would hope that I could learn from the shameful act that they committed. That's how you deal with your heritage. Okay, so again, who am I? I'm a 42-year-old black Native American. I am a tutor. I love tutoring. I love seeing people learn. I love teaching. I am an unemployed surveillance operator. Once upon a time, I was an overnight surveillance operator at a casino, whose name I will not mention out of respect. And I am a fish keeper, and I am a farmer. And some of you have heard about my plans and my intentions for the future, and some of you who are new to the channel, take a look around at some of the stuff that's already here, and you'll see that I'm already sharing some of my fish keeping adventures. I am sharing some of my horticulture adventures, but we're going to get into the farming later on this year. By the way, Happy New Year. I meant to start this off with Happy New Year, but it's December. It's the middle of December when I'm making this video. I'm actually going to schedule it to come out on New Year's Day. So Happy New Year, folks. Let's never mention 2020 ever again. Anyway, I am from New York. I was born in Mineola. I was raised in Uniondale. And there were points and times in my life where I lived in Jamaica, Hempstead, Astoria, Hempstead, and Uniondale again. Now, I live in Randallstown by way of Baltimore. When we first moved down here, we lived in Baltimore. Then we moved to Woodlawn, which is in Baltimore County. Then I moved to Edmondson Village, which is in Baltimore City. And then I moved out to Randallstown, which is here in Baltimore County. Growing up, I attended church growing up, although I'm not a religious individual, which is also something that we'll be getting into in another video. I grew up in a Baptist church. I won't say the name. If I did, I'm gonna have to edit that out. But out of respect for my great-grandmother and her sisters who built that church, I'm not going to mention its name, because I was asked to leave that church because of the fact that I asked too many questions, and apparently some of my questions were considered blasphemous and offensive. So a church that I will mention is Massapequa Tabernacle, because the preacher's son, Reverend Prophet's son, Kevin, was welcoming to all of my questions. And if he didn't have an answer, he kept it real with me and told me, you know what, I don't know. And then the next week when I came back, he says, you know what, I looked it up and I found this, or I looked it up and I couldn't find anything. And that type of candor made me feel right at home. And no matter what synagogue, mosque, or other church I may have visited, I always considered Massapequa Tabernacle my home. So shout out to anybody that's over at Massapequa Tabernacle. You are my family. I graduated from Uniondale High School in class of 1996 because my entire grade school career, or my grade school life, I lived in I went to Uniondale. I did not always live in Uniondale. When I was living in Jamaica, when I was living in Astoria, when I was living in Hempstead, I was still going to Uniondale schools. I was still using my grandparents' address because that's what we were doing. And I wasn't the only one that did that, but for the most chunk of those 12 years, I did live most of those years in Uniondale. But there was a point in time in my life where I was homeless. In my adult life as well as in my childhood life. I know what it's like to wake up in a car with all my possessions in it, or every possession that I'm able to reach and touch in it, and then go from that parking lot into the hotel lobby, use the bathrooms in that hotel lobby to wash my face, wash under my arms, brush my teeth, and get ready for school. After driving an hour to get back to Uniondale to get back to school. A lot of y'all didn't know that was going on at Turtle Hook if I got any of my classmates on here, but it is what it is. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not proud of it. It's just something that I went through, and it's something that made me. As an adult, I don't think I would have been able to mentally handle that situation had I not handled that situation as a child. I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, high anxiety, and severe depression. And that comes from losing my son. Some of you had mentioned that, I had Yeshua written on the shirt I was wearing in my original Get to Know Me video. That's my son's name. I do know that that is supposed to be the historical name of the individual that you call Jesus. Of course, he couldn't have been called Jesus because the letter J wasn't invented until like the 1600s, but that's a whole nother conversation. We're not going to get into that here right now. But yeah, I suffer from PTSD, severe depression, and high anxiety, all relating to the loss of that child. And I have been given various medications that did not work, or did not work as intended. None of them made me feel right. And to be honest with you, the only thing that did work, or that I felt kind of worked, was marijuana. And even though marijuana is decriminalized and you are able to use it medically and as well as therapeutically, it's still not legal. And that's why I'm not impressed by decriminalization conversations, because true liberation of the use of that plant would be for it to be legalized. Then I would be able to use that in a healing manner, and I wouldn't have to worry about being able to get a job or keep a job, because here in this state, you can get denied employment because of the fact that they find it in your system. Doesn't matter if you have a prescription. So I'm not able to consume in any way, shape, or form any type of marijuana, because at the end of the day, I need to make money and I need to be able to live. So because of that, the one medicine that does work for me is something that's out of my reach. Because of that, I had to find different ways in order to cope. So some of the things that I did were using affirmations, positive affirmations on a daily basis, studying and getting into the law of attraction, and using that to my advantage. And it is a daily exercise, but I have seen results. I am not as consistent with it as I would like to be, but I am better, and I am getting better. And part of that is the reason that, part of that is the reason why I got back into fish keeping and plant keeping. My goal and intention is to start an aquaponic farm. And before starting that aquaponic farm here at this house, I am going to build a homestead farm. And that is going to be an aquaponic homestead farm, or it's going to include an aquaponic section rather. You stay tuned, because I plan on doing that this year in 2021. Caring for and nurturing life in our fellow earthlings is therapeutic. This is the reason why people who suffer from mental ailments and mental disorders are sometimes suggested companion pets. And most of the time when you consider a companion pet, it's usually something that's furry, but there's plenty of companion pets that have feathers, that have scales, that have slime-coated skin, and some that swim, like fish. A lot of you that aren't into fish keeping might think that it's boring to sit down in front of a fish tank and just watch the fish. But for those that suffer from mental illness, they would probably agree, if they haven't even looked into it or tried it, that boring is probably something better than most other experiences, whether they be real or entertainment experiences. You know, watching action movies and comedies and dramas and romances, and going through the motions, and getting immersed and invested into the story that you're viewing or experiencing, versus being invested in the life that's taking place right in front of you. And I have all the respect in the world for people who genuinely keep companions, because not everybody that suffers from a mental illness is a companion pet owner. A lot of you out there who have pets, they are your companions. A lot of people look at their pets as being like their children, and then there's a debate or a divide, and people start to argue and fuss that you can't consider your pets your children. Yeah, you can. You can consider them your siblings. You can consider them anything that makes you happy, because how you treat your fellow earthling and how you interact with your fellow earthling will show 100%. And it's not my thing. I wouldn't want it. I don't like it. But I don't look down on people who sleep with their dogs or their cats. Part of that's because I'm allergic to animal dander, but the biggest part of that is that I just don't want that animal in my bed. But the point that I'm making is that I do understand when you have a companion or companions, what could be more loving than sharing, your intimate space. And I don't mean intimate in terms of romance, but you got that 3 foot square around you. That's your personal space. That's your intimate space. Everybody's not worthy of existing in your intimate space. My aquaponic intentions is to get into alkaline foods. If any of you out there are familiar with Dr. Sebi, Dr. Sebi is an individual who did cure many people of many ailments before he left this physical existence. And the way he had claimed to have done that was by using a all vegan, all alkaline diet. And it was not something where he said, okay, go home and just stop eating meat. He actually gradually brought people into an alkaline diet until he switched their diet to be a complete alkaline diet. And the reason why he did that was because, as an herbologist, he theorized that mucus was the cause of all disease. And with mucus being the cause of all disease, it comes from high acidic levels, which your body is naturally somewhat acidic, but by consuming highly acidic foods, you completely throw it off of balance. And the best way to bring it back into balance is to eat alkaline foods. So I will be growing all alkaline foods that I possibly can in my homestead, to not just feed my family, but to nourish it as well. And I had known and followed Sebi for years. This was the man that Left Eye was on her way to see when she unfortunately passed. Rest in peace, Lisa Lopez. He is someone who, when I was living in New York, was put on trial for claiming to cure HIV, and he went to court, and they told him to produce like I don't know if they told him to produce one patient or 5 patients or whatever, but he ended up producing like hundreds of patients that came in and said, well, I was cured of cancer, I was cured of diabetes, I was cured of paralysis, I was cured of this, I was cured of that. And it wasn't no miracle touch, you know, no walking on water or raising the dead. Like, he literally put in work for these people to get healed. And because I did recognize his name when he became a internet sensation, I decided to follow and look into him. And I shed tears when I found out that he had passed. I don't know what happened exactly. I'm quite sure that we weren't given the whole story, but I'm not going to sit up here and speculate. I'm going to wish him well in his his current existence, and tell him to live on and never rest. And the reason why I say that is because I had a dream that I will get into in a later video, that I actually met this man, and this was more than just a dream. It was a lucid dream. It was not just surreal, it was real. When I tell you that I shook the man's hand, I felt his tight grip crushing to the point that I knew to tighten my grip so that it wouldn't hurt. And I woke up and I could still feel that pain in my hand. And I knew that I was on the right track. And that lets me know that I'm still on the right track, heading towards where I'm going. And that's somewhat of a comfort, because up until that was the second surreal lucid dream that I had experienced. I'm gonna have to share with you what happened with my son. To make a long story short, I met a woman who had agreed with me that we would not be engaging in physical pleasure until it was decided that we would be creating life, because I don't have any children and I want children. So we waited, and we decided to move forward. However, 24, arguably 20, I believe 24, I believe it was 6 months. She says it was 5 months into the pregnancy, she decided that she no longer wanted to carry that child, and she terminated her pregnancy. And it was devastating. I did not know that men suffer from pregnancy terminations. I never imagined that whatever we had, or whatever we would be going through, would push her to make that decision. And this wasn't a decision where her life was on the line. She went to her doctor, they told her no. She went to the hospital, they told her no. She went to Planned Parenthood, an organization that loves killing little black unborn babies, and they told her no. She had to leave. And when she got it done, it was at the 24-week mark, arguably the 20-week mark. But 5 months or 6 months doesn't matter. At 3 months, there's a heartbeat. So how dare you tell me, science, that you found life on Mars as a microscopic germ, but we got to debate whether my son was alive or not when his heart was beating and his body was developed. And the worst part of it all was that I was not allowed to take his remains and give him the proper respect that any parent would for their child that passed before them. Even though a parent's not supposed to bury their child, I don't think he's supposed to be flushed down the toilet either. But my healing began 3 years after the event, where on a sofa, a lot like this one, I laid down and literally as soon as I laid down, I closed my eyes and opened them up, and I was laying in the same position on a row on a bench in a hospital, and there was a little boy standing in front of me, and he was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen. And I knew who he was because I had known him for all my life. And he smiled at me, and he ran. And I got up and I ran after him, and I ran from that waiting area into the lobby and out the front door. And when I got out the front door, I could smell the dew in the air, and I could feel the rumble of the thunder, and I could feel the pit-pats of rain as the drizzle began to hit my arms. And I ran back inside the hospital, and I told my wife, he's here, he was here, I saw him, I finally got to see his face. And that was one of the biggest things that killed me, because I never got to see his face. She said, wow, it took 13 years for you to see him. And I said, 13, it's only been 3 years. Remember, I'm having this dream 3 years after the event. And she says, no, it's been 13 years. And when she said that, my heart stopped, because I realized that I'm here at the hospital for someone, and that if he was here, then that means I only have a limited time to say goodbye. And when I turned to run to a room, that's when I woke up on the sofa, bawling, crying my eyes out. Happy that I finally got to see him. Happy to know that he looked happy. He looked beautiful. Up until that point, I had so many night terrors and so many nightmares and so many bad dreams. My dreams were horrible. Those dreams stopped when my son came to me. And that was the first time that wasn't the first lucid dream that I've ever had, but that was the first lucid dream that I had since that experience. And Dr. Sebi's dream was the second. And that's something I could tell you about in full detail in another video. But considering that I not only saw the man, but I felt him, that tells me that I have a responsibility to continue his work. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that is going to bring this Get to Know Me video to a close. I am going to do definitely 2 more follow-ups to this video. One that talks about science and religion, and one that possibly goes into politics and the state of the world. I do not know yet, but definitely one that talks about science and religion, so that you can understand why I say some of the things I say and do some of the things that I do, and why I consider plants and animals my fellow earthlings, because they inhabit this planet just like we do. I would like to thank you all for joining me today. as always, I'd like to ask that if you know anybody suffering from any kind of mental illness, that you reach out to them. Your reaching out can make a world of difference. You don't know what it's like to suffer alone, and if you do know what it's like to suffer alone, reach out to someone who you know is suffering. You could save their life. You could save your own life. You could save so many other lives. You never know. And that energy that you put out is definitely coming back to you tenfold. I don't believe that. I know that. So reach out to anybody that you know is suffering in any way, shape, or form, please. And as always, I ask you to remember that winners are not people that never fail. They're people that never quit. People that never give up. So don't quit. Don't give up, especially on yourself. Never give up on yourself. Never quit on yourself. You got this. This is Dead Fred 821. I love you all. Thank you so much. Be safe, be blessed, like, share, subscribe. Peace.
Yeah. This is take 2. We still not to the final copy yet, but we about to get it in. Something that nobody talks about. So if you in need, I hope that this reaches you. This is for you, Yeshua. I love you. I love you. The first thing you need to hear before we get it in, let me make that clear.